I live in western Nebraska, a place where the winters can be tough. We can experience multiple blizzards and significant winter storms in a year, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. So in the second week of March 2021, when weather stations began to call for a historic winter storm that weekend, my curiosity was piqued. I decided to document the events of the weekend to see if the coming storm would indeed turn out to be historic or something different.
But I remember, we threw our fists in the air, singing.
What really grabbed my attention in the week leading up to the storm was seeing this picture circulate on social media. The fact that we could potentially get almost 40 inches of snow was kind of insane. I've lived in Gearing since 2011, and in that time, I've seen some amazing blizzards and winter storms. We're talking snow so deep and thick that the only way to get around on it was to snowshoe. Drifts over 6 feet tall, not being able to get dug out of the end of our street for almost a week after the fact. And the thing is, I don't really remember any of those storms being advertised ahead of time as potentially historic. As you can see, our bar for what constitutes a really bad blizzard or winter storm, it's a high one. In the pictures and video that you're seeing here from years past, we got a lot of snow, sure, but nothing approaching almost 40 inches. So if this is what a blizzard can do with 30 inches of snow or less, then what was going to happen if we got closer to 40?
You lift me off of the ground. I close my eyes and I wait for the come down. I used to live in the now. Now I'm wiser to think that we are bulletproof. Teens with thicker skin, now we just bruise. We were hopeless and we're hopeless now. But I remember, we threw our fists in the air, singing. I remember when we were kids, never scared, yeah. And the sky went dark, we used our hearts to guide us. You showed me you care. And I remember, yeah, I remember. Now, but I remember, we threw our fists in the air, singing. I remember when we were kids, never scared, yeah. And the sky went dark, we used our hearts to guide us. You showed me you care. And I remember, yeah, I remember. We threw our fists in the air, singing.
As the weekend got closer, forecast models varied slightly, but not by much. We were still in for a potentially historic winter storm, with the chance for that storm to turn into a blizzard, with 40 to 50 mile per hour winds being forecasted for Saturday and Sunday. Snowfall totals were predicted anywhere between 2 feet all the way up to that 40 inches I mentioned before. As Thursday afternoon rolled around, I prepped all my camera gear and set about the process of documenting this potentially historic weekend. It's Thursday afternoon, about 4:40, and what I've done here to measure whatever snow we get, especially in case we do get an epic amount of snow, I've repurposed this wood stand that I used for making something else a while ago into a makeshift snow gauge. So I've measured out and written here 4 feet in increments. So we have 1 through 4 feet, and the gauge probably tops out around 5, which, if we can't see the gauge anymore, is that's gonna be a situation. So I'm gonna take this gauge, I'm gonna put it out over there, kind of where the ground is flat, and that will give us an idea of how much snow we get this weekend. Now, I do have to mention this isn't going to be the most I don't know how to say it, unbiased measurement of snow, because we do live on the edge of this cornfield here that kind of divides us from the rest of Gearing proper. And if the wind blows from the west and it does gust around 40 to 45 throughout the snowstorm, like some of the forecasts are saying it's going to do, then the end of our street typically tends to get drifted up pretty bad, like you saw in my pictures from blizzards in years past. So we might get higher drifting here than the actual average of snowfall on flat ground or in places where it's not going to drift. But being that A, this is where we live, so this is where I'm placing my measurement for ease of use, and B, because the wind is such a factor here, drifting is common in a lot of places. So for what it's worth, this is going to be a pretty accurate measurement of the impact of this storm locally. So I'm going to set this gauge out, and I'll be interested to see how much of it gets covered up by the snow. I'm up near the top of the Wildcat Hills, And, earlier today, you could probably be forgiven for doubting that we were gonna get snow even, because it was such a beautiful day. All the snow had melted off and it was sunny, barely breezy. But this afternoon when I went to pick my car up from the shop, getting new tires, you could really start to feel it. You could feel it now. Like, I'm shivering a little bit because there's just a bite to the wind. When I went to pick up my car, there was just a little bit, that little cool set of teeth to the wind. And up here now, you can really feel it. It feels like snow. I'm trying to stop my teeth from chattering. It feels like snow. You can feel that bite to the wind. You can see the clouds rolling in. They look ominous. Makes me start to think that maybe we are gonna get hit this weekend. I kind of have this thing I do sometimes where I like to come up here before a big snowstorm, if I know one's on the way, like this weekend, and just kind of hang out up here for a while. There's just kind of this feeling I get. I don't really know how to describe it. It's almost like that little bit of chill you can feel in the air when you're downtown. You can feel that more pronounced up here. And I don't know, it's a little woo-woo, but it's almost like it gives me a better sense of what's coming and how big it's going to be. I was up here, 2-3 years ago, before we just got pounded with one of these legendary early spring blizzards. And I felt the same kind of thing. It might be sunny and it might not be real breezy, but there's just this undercurrent of cold to the air. It's not dramatic, but it's there. And I really am starting to wonder, how bad are we going to get hit by this thing this weekend? It's really cool being up here before the storm comes. This is Thursday night. It's supposed to start snowing as early as tomorrow morning. Definitely supposed to be snowing steadily by the time tomorrow night gets here. The heaviest days we're supposed to see are Saturday and Sunday. And it's just neat. It's just neat being up here and kind of feeling the change in the weather, seeing those clouds roll in from the west as the sun set. That's a special thing. As wild as the weather can be out here in western Nebraska, and as much as we can complain about it, I think ultimately I'd much rather live in a place like this where we do get so much variety. I think that's what it boils down to, variety. I like places with defined seasons, and as inconvenient and troublesome as these big storms can be, whether it's blizzards in the winter or whether it's thunderstorms in the summer that bring tornadoes and hail, there is something undeniably fascinating about that much natural power. Like, as much as there's a part of me that doesn't want to deal with the ramifications of the snow, like time on a snowblower, bad roads, all that stuff, if it's gonna come, we can't do anything about it anyway. So if it's gonna snow, I want to see it deliver. About 8:30 Friday morning.
No snow to speak of yet. It did dust a little last night, but as you can see, not even really enough to accumulate. It's already melting off. I imagine it'll be gone around noon or so. You can see some has collected up on the higher elevations, like on the monument. It's sticking a little more to the hills. But at this point, that's still nothing really to go on because the heavy snow isn't supposed to start till at least a little bit later on today. So we still don't really know how this storm is gonna go. It is a little colder today, but who knows if that's gonna really translate to it being cold enough for the snow to stick around when the snow proper comes. Guess we'll just have to wait and see.
It's a brand new morning at Better Country 94.1 The Brand. Time for us to take a look at weather this morning. Meteorologist Don Day joins us. Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
Well, we've got a lot to unpack here today, including a little bit of a wrinkle or two that's been thrown into our forecast here over the weekend.
Yeah, due to the intensity of this storm, we have what's called a warm conveyor belt of air that will be brought in up out of the Gulf and wrapped into the storm system tomorrow and tomorrow night into Sunday. And that is what that does is a couple things. It'll transport a lot of humidity and that moisture that all the computer models have shown that wants to be very, very heavy. But it's also bringing in a warmer layer of air that could change the temperature profile just enough that we may see this system start off as a little bit of rain first. Now, we actually saw that in the March 2019 storm, but it's really a testament to how intense this storm is going to be as it comes together to draw air all the way up from the Gulf. Well, I think the biggest concern we have for that is going to be over the next 24 hours to the next 36 hours or so, especially tonight, as it will be cold enough tonight that the upslope will produce some freezing drizzle and fog. That is the concern, I think, for this evening, overnight, and tomorrow. It could be just enough to make things icy.
Certainly stay tuned and with you guys throughout the weekend, and we'll see what all has in store for us. Bottom line, though, if you're don't have to travel, just don't. Stay home and make sure you're safe and have your emergency kit ready to go.
That is good advice.
All right, Don, thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too.
It's almost 11 o'clock on Friday night, and there is not a drop of moisture. No rain, no snow. I will admit, at this point, I am starting to wonder a little bit. Are we still going to get the storm that was advertised, or are things changing? It's just past 10 on Saturday morning, and the first drops of precipitation are starting to fall. Right now it sounds like freezing rain, which probably means it will turn to snow fairly soon. Now, I'm sure all serious meteorologists encounter setbacks. I'm no exception to this rule. My observation tower has fallen, but we will rebuild. Rebuilt. Now, I wasn't exactly expecting this to happen when I went back out this morning, but the first drops of precipitation are starting to fall. Like I mentioned, it does seem like it's picking up a little bit. It is rain right now, but the air is definitely cold, so I'm not sure how long that will last. It has been interesting because the snow was forecasted by some models to start as early as yesterday morning, and we did not get any precipitation yesterday. And when I woke up this morning, still no snow. Right now it's just a low low cloud ceiling, and now, like I said, some rain is starting to fall. But I don't know that that actually is too much of an indicator about what the storm is actually going to do, because we've seen winter storms like this where they delay the start time. The start time is delayed past when the forecast said it might start. We've seen those storms kind of do two things. One, they continue to push back and don't arrive and don't arrive, and then by the time they do arrive, they have totally tapered and gone out like a lamb. But we've also seen storms where they did not start when they were supposed to. The time frame gets pushed back, but then when they come with a vengeance. We are officially under a blizzard warning now. This rain is supposed to turn to snow. Winds are supposed to gust around 50 miles per hour overnight, and I think sustained through most of Sunday. And the snow forecast models haven't changed too much right now. They are saying 8 to 14 inches, I think, is the average. So we'll see. We'll see how hard this thing actually hits us when it arrives. Right now it's just spitting rain, but the clouds are heavy and dense, especially as we look toward the west. So I'm not sure what this is gonna do. I'm not sure if the delayed onset of this storm is ultimately going to wind up being a good thing or a bad thing. And I suppose whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what happens, sort of depends on what you were hoping would happen with this storm. It is almost 10:30 on Saturday morning, and we'll see how long it takes this rain to turn to snow, how much rain we get, because that will also contribute a great deal, I think, towards making driving difficult and the roads freezing if it continues to get cold, if the temperature continues to drop. And if we have a decent layer of rain before it turns to snow, or rain then snow mix and then snow, then it could be pretty dicey. Of course, I know you could just get all this stuff in real time while it's happening from weather channels, but I also am a veteran meteorologist of almost 24 hours, so I totally understand if I'm your main source for weather and what is happening in the meteorological world as well. It's now 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and I'm standing here at the border of Scottsbluff National Monument. Now, on a normal day, you'd be able to very clearly see the monument right there. It's not very far away from where I'm standing right now, but as you can see, it started raining when I updated earlier this morning. It rained very heavily for about an hour and a half, and as I think that you can see now, it's gone from rain to a snow-rain mix, and now is decidedly turning into snow. It certainly just seems like it's going to increase snowing throughout the day, but what we haven't seen yet, and I think one of the factors that's going to determine just how severe the storm is if we get the forecasted 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, especially sustained overnight and into tomorrow as it snows, because much less snow than we could currently get, which is still between 1 to 2 feet, much less snow could really be a factor if we get those blizzard strength winds. Now, as of right now, it is quite calm outside, even sort of up here on the slope of the monument, exposed to a little of the winds. It's barely blowing at all. It's just breezy. I don't know if you can see when contrasted against the trees behind me. The snow is falling almost straight down, which reminds me of a joke about fine Scottish weather, which I think essentially applies to fine Nebraska weather. Hey, as long as it's falling straight down, it's good. So I'm going to pick up a few extra things at the store, which we'll need especially if we do have to hunker down over the next few days. We'll continue to document, and we'll see what the storm actually gets us. It's now a little bit after 8 o'clock on Saturday night. The wind is picking up a little bit, so I think the wind might be coming as forecasted, but it's still just raining. It's raining hard, and it's been raining for a while, but it's still just raining. At this point, it's not even turning back to mix. It's just rain, which is turning the snow that's already on the ground into just a slushy. It's just a slushy. So if it does continue to get colder and it does snow a lot more, then having this base underneath all that snow, if we then get a lot of snow, it is going to be interesting. I mean, look at that. Just look at that. Slushy. Nasty. It's just pure slush.
Taking on another day with the ups and the downs, my heart will never stray. You take my breath in so many different ways. With the calm in your heart, you keep in my mind at bay. Losing touch with what I used to say, and finding you in every word I pray.
It's Monday morning. The storm, for all intents and purposes, is over. And now to the question, was it a historic storm? Well, yes and no. No, in that it was not a historic amount of snow for where we are right here in Gearing. We got what I would call a fairly average amount of snow for a winter storm like this, but it's not quite so simple as that. I would say from the pictures that I have seen from Wyoming and places further west, it was a historic storm for this time of year. It looks like they got way more snow, and a lot of the roads were closed. It was a difficult and dangerous type of snow, I think, because of how wet it was, how much rain and then freezing rain and mix we got before it turned to snow did make this a dangerous snow for travel. So even though we didn't get an insane amount of snow like we have in years past, all the roads in the panhandle were closed as of yesterday. So it's interesting. We didn't get, the potential 47 inches that they said we could get, but we did get a decent amount of very wet, dangerous snow. So it's tough to say when all is said and done, but I will say I have definitely enjoyed this maiden voyage into my professional meteorology career, and I hope that you have too.
So let me take your hand, I'm here to stay.